Hi, I was reviewing headers for a phishing email that one of our customers has received. And as you might know, we check for things such as SPF records, KIM records. You'll find description for both terms below. But while doing this, I noticed that, well, this could also be perfectly used for discovery purposes during a penetration test. Now, what we will do is try to find out what potential technologies the targets might be using just based on their DNS records. For this purpose, I've gathered a list of 100 domains. What we will try to do is for each of these lists, try to understand if we can get any information from the DNS records on the technologies these might be potentially using. Let's go over a quick example I'll just choose one randomly. It should be enough to give us an idea. Yelp.com. What we will do is basically use dig to understand how the DNS works. Basically, we will be sending queries to the DNS server using dig. Here, if we use the default dig without any parameters, what it will return is the list of IPs that this domain name is using. When I open my browser and I type in yelp.com, this is the IP address I'm sent to. And I will also see some information related to the domain server that replied. In this case, this is my local DNS. But what I'm interested in, well, first of all, let's get rid of the parts of this reply that we're not really interested in. So I'm just interested in the answers section. I'll just get rid of anything that isn't an answer. So no all plus answer, which will just print out the answer part. I will also not be using my local DNS. I'll be using Cloudflare. You might also go with Google's DNS, works just fine. The reason I'm using an outside DNS is to bypass any potential restrictions or redirection that my ISP, my internet service provider, might have. But I won't be querying DNS for their default records. I'm interested in their text records. Text records are basically everything else. So I have my domain that redirects to my web page. I have my MX records that redirect or that take care of my mails of the mail server, and everything else like site verifications, you can see here, or a domain verification for Apple will be under TXT records. This is mainly used for third parties to test or to check for ownership of a domain. So I'm a service provider and someone wants to use my services to make sure that they are able to use my services for this domain, they're qualified to use it, I will just ask them to enter a TXT record on their DNS server. Or sometimes we do have solutions that require this, that will query for this entry and be redirected or make a decision based on the entry that is here. This is also used for things such as integration, for example. Our goal here is, from an attacker's perspective, see if we can leverage this information so that it could give us some potential ideas or ways to target these guys. I will just go over the list I've just shown you. Hopefully I won't do this one by one, so I will not be stealing too much of your time. What I'll be doing is just a quick for loop. As you will remember, domains.txt was this list. So I'm just asking Linux to go over this list, and for each row appoint a variable I in this case, and for I want it to do dig. In this case, I will not have a domain name here, I will just have I, and I want my command line back once you are done. I'll just run it once to make sure I've written everything correctly. Interesting. Yes. As a matter of fact, I didn't write everything correct. Seems to be working. I'll need to go over and to work on redirect the output to a file. Dig results TXT. Once it's done, I should be able to see all the results in a file called digresults.txt. Perfect. And if I go over dig results, they're here. I will see that there's a couple of lines that I really don't need here. So the lines that I'm interested in will include capital letters TXT. I'll just grab those first, just to get rid of everything else. Okay, perfect. And in fact, we're not really interested in finger pointing to anyone, so I'll just take this part, which is the part in this line that follows the double quotes. So I'll just cut these lines from double quote. Perfect. I might want to sort it, and I'll just give a parameter unique, just to make sure that anything that repeats itself will be dismissed in the process. This is something I could have written easily like this as well. And yes, there are a number of interesting things. For example, now I know who is using Zoom. This might be, well, Zoom has been discussed widely in the recent weeks for security-related matters. But even without that, now I know that employees of this organization would tend to use Zoom to talk to each other, especially in the period we are in now. And if I'm planning any phishing simulation, I think that a Zoom invite would be the way to go. A Zoom invite coming maybe from someone they know, they trust, they're expecting a Zoom invite, they would be expecting a Zoom invite from, say, the CEO, and I would be sure to have a much higher click rate. What else? I'll just get rid of the SPF records, because as you can see, they're taking. I'll just use grep v. So I want the opposite. Here, grep would normally just take out the lines that include the parameter I have given it. But now I will just reverse the process. I don't want any line that includes SPF. There might be a number of other things I might want to get rid of, because as you can see, there's a bunch of here. So that would be get rid of the Google verification, and also this capital M. I really don't know what it is, but it was just taking up too much place. Now I do have I know we don't really some structure or marketing system they are using, or companies that would potentially include their systems in a bug bounty program. I will see things like maybe the underlying infrastructure they are using. I would have some ideas about how they would go about protecting stuff. Here it might give me an idea about them using a certain security solution, or that maybe they are tracking their credential leaks. I'm not sure if there's a way to go around this. So I know that some vendors would require this entry to be written exactly the way it is, which would make it obvious for a potential attacker. But maybe there might be a way to go around this, maybe changing the entry name so it's not that obvious. Or maybe some of these were only required for a certain check process, and once the check is done, then it should have been removed. So it's always a good idea to go over your own domain with dig using the -t and txt parameter, and just check what records you might have, and if they are leaking any potential information that you might not want to be out there. If you have any questions, feel free to email me as always, and hope to see you in another video. Thank you.